All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another weekend review for Maxi. I'm Max and this is Sid, and we're going to do, as we always do, dive into our predictions from last week, see how those did, make some new predictions, take a look at this last week, and then, see how our new predictions fare into the coming weeks. So let's dive right in. Last week, I think we were looking at like the SPY, the DXY, and we're seeing the market kind of making some bullish indications, but we were also a little hesitant to kind of believe those bullish kind of signals we were getting because a lot of it was seemingly driven by a very positive Apple's earnings call, which kind of felt like it was pulling up the rest of the market. But then this week, we definitely saw that bullish sentiment kind of getting reinforced pretty aggressively with a nice pump in the equities, DXY, the QQQ, the SPY, like everything kind of having a great green week. And I feel like now that the week's over and the candles are closed, let's take a look. You want to pull up a chart and let's see how those charts looked from last week?
Yeah, like you said, let's start with. Let me screen share here. So it was definitely an interesting week. So we have the S&P 500, the ticker is SPY or DSPX, either of those tickers.
Yeah.
That's what we have on the left side. The right side is the QQQ. It's basically the ticker for the Nasdaq. And we had a very interesting week, like you said. The Apple earnings pulled up the whole market the week before that, and we did see a small drop after that. But what we're seeing now, this is a SPY again, is that we got an SR flip right on support.
Yeah. You can see.
Let me draw this out. So right here, we can see that it flipped.
Yep.
This line.
That line is like the bouncing board now, and it's gonna bounce from and move up. So we moved all the way up to the second line, just like we were talking about in how to like chart the levels. We were like following our own advice there. You'd be trading from the level that we just were bouncing from up to this current level. And now we're again looking to see, is this next level going to hold? Are we getting another flip, or is this going to be where the new resistance is? But
right, and also what we're seeing, we have a bull print finally.
Yeah.
With our indicator, it's our custom indicator again. It's called the Maxsi Trading Buddy. People who are interested. In using this, it works in stocks, crypto, forex, anything
you're charting on TradingView, pretty much.
Exactly. And you can see how it called the start of the bear market on Jan 2022. This is a weekly chart again.
Yeah.
And now we finally got a bull print with the green band. See, we did sort of get a few fake outs here, but we didn't get a bull print, but finally we have a bull print and a green band to match it. And we have an SR flip. So
the bull print on the weekly chart like that is a pretty big deal, especially if you look at the historical performance of those prints on this. So if we
go back, this was a COVID crash. See how it showed us exactly when the market reversed. And then, it just kept going up from there. This was the 2019, sort of the recession we had. And you can see, like, this was the 2007, the big crash that we had. And you can see how we got a bull print, and then that marked the bottom.
Yeah, very much.
So this could be a potential bottom. It could be an important point that we're in right now.
Yeah, it's nice to see that too, but it's also it's strange to see everything coming up like this. Like last week, because last week we were looking at the DXY and seeing that like double bottom.
Exactly. Let's pull that up.
Yeah.
So we did share this last week how we could potentially see a double bottom with the DXY. It's the US dollar.
Yeah.
And guess what? That's exactly what happened. we ended the week with a higher candle, you know,
Yeah,
and
above the resistance
so
there.
exactly,
And
and
the prediction
and
last week when we looked at this though was that we were expecting the climbing DXY to help push down some of the equity prices, kind of like the opposite of that was what played out, which that's the kind of strange part this week. I would say the big weirdness to the market is like, ooh,
yeah,
DX, yeah,
it's weird because we seeing the dollar run, we're seeing stocks run, and also bonds. So this is a 10-year bond, and you can see the bonds also did sort of, you know, found a
yeah,
bottom at support, and we closed bullish. So
yeah, bonds
it's kind of
climbing,
strange
bonds climbing
that
while
like
the equity index is climbing is not super characteristic of the way these charts correlate. So it's kind
right.
of deviating away from the usual correlation we're expecting. Like when bonds markets pump and DXY pumps, I usually expect to see the SPY and the QQQ sell off a bit or kind of, take a backseat. So this week, yeah, seeing everything pump, a little strange.
It's a little strange, and we also we had a bull print with the QQQ
Yeah,
a while ago. Actually, we had it back in March, and it's been up like, I don't know, five.
five,
Let's
yeah,
see, let's measure. Yeah, five, maybe around close to 8%. Like it's so the the signal from my indicator, it turned out to be pretty accurate. And
yeah,
so the also tech stocks have had really good earnings, which has helped pull up the QQQ.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so we have bull print on both. So I think what's gonna happen next week is, I think this could potentially be a bottom
yeah,
with equities, and I think so for the SPY to continue running higher. I think what it should do is, ideally it should do like an SR flip. So maybe like pull back here, go on support, and then continue higher. Let's see.
yeah. Flipping that
Like
418, 419 range, kind of.
yeah. So like this would then like be the resistance to flip, and then it should like go higher, or it could even come down to like the 412 kind of price range before it like flips that. So I
Yeah,
think that's what we're gonna see the coming week, and I don't know, the DXY could have a shorter pullback. Uh, we did see we're seeing that the DXY, the daily chart, we also have a bull print now.
yeah,
So you can see that the DXY is trying to do an SR flip. Like what it wants to do is this, you
yeah.
know.
Bounce there and move higher. Yeah,
So that's probably what it's gonna try to do. And
yeah. Let's see.
the SPY is gonna do the same thing. So if it were, maybe even come down here and
Yeah,
then continue higher.
probably bounce off the strength band there is kind of
Oh
ideal.
yeah, that's true. Right where the strength band here is.
Yeah,
That's probably what that might happen.
yeah, yeah.
And
I feel like
yeah,
as long as we're closing above that strength band, I'm still pretty like bullish on this whole trend.
yeah. So like I might swing short, just a quick swing short, but then like close it once I see it bounce, and then probably start longing here.
Yeah,
That's what I'm going to do.
yeah.
Um,
For short term, if you trade short term like day trade style positions, that's kind of what Sid is saying. The move for the coming week would be early week, maybe trade short selling with very tight stops and like expecting the market to bounce. Like you're trading against the market if you're short selling at the moment, or at least against the market trend. And
right.
yeah, so it's like, carefully short selling before entering into long positions, and then, trying to ride this market up versus down this time around.
Exactly, because the longer term trend seems to be bullish right now, and also, I mean, like like we were talking about, it's kind of strange to see
Yeah.
uh, how the dollar, bonds, and equities all running at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you think it's, I don't know, is it because of I mean, I know stocks are running because uh, the data coming in is that inflation is kind of slowing down.
Yeah.
So markets are seeing this as a good sign.
Yeah,
They're
there's a lot of like positive news this week around like that's helping the market kind of rally. I think at least what people are pointing to a lot is like, the what is it? The employment numbers are climbing, the inflation is slowing down, it's not dropping, but it's slowing down. And also the debt ceiling was adjusted up, so we raised the debt ceiling, which that is good news for the DXY in my opinion, because it keeps the strength of the dollar as far as the dollar representing the universal kind of like reserve currency that it currently is. And when the dollar doesn't default, or when the US government doesn't default on debts, that strengthens the impression of the dollar. But I'm not so sure why that's great news for equities, because when the government raises the debt ceiling like they have this last week, what that really means is that it allows the government to spend, like to go deeper into debt to finish its commitments that it's already made. So it's to pay off debts that already were approved. So spending that's already been approved. It's not a new approval of new spending, and it's also not, an inflation or a stimulus. So it's not something that should necessarily hit the bottom line of the industry sector, or of like the SPY, the QQQ shouldn't be super
like it's
excited.
not it's not really changing the supply of money, right?
Yeah, it doesn't change the supply. It just makes like the amount of debt that the US in, you're allowed to go deeper into debt, but again, only for things that are already approved. This isn't a new approval of spending when they increase the
Right.
debt ceiling. So, it's interesting. It's definitely good news. It's better news than the US defaulted on a loan. So I guess if those are the two opposites end of the spectrum, I do understand why
Right.
that's positive news. It's like, oh yeah, we're not defaulting, the economy is strengthening, job numbers are up, inflation is starting to slow down. Lots of positive news, and then the chart is also kind of flipping more and more positive lately in the last few weeks. It's still I feel a little bit like um, that, what is it, like PTSD basically from the bear market here. I still want to be like, oh, it's like, is it safe to kind of like start limping into these equity positions again? And
Right.
this chart is starting to say, yeah, it's starting to say it
Yeah,
might be time to like consider.
I think, at least for me, I I trade mostly just based off the chart.
Yeah.
Like, and also looking at the indicator, it's never really gone wrong in calling bottoms, especially on the weekly.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm gonna try to trust it. I'm definitely gonna trust it, even though we're getting mixed messages on like dollar and
Yeah.
also bonds rallying at the same time.
Yeah. That's
Um,
definitely not usually the characteristics that we see.
right.
But
It seems the market seems a bit disjointed,
yeah.
and also it could be that yeah, like next week, the next few weeks, we'll get more clarity on the U.S. Default situation. Like, I think they're supposed to figure it out next week, right?
Yes.
Or the week
Yeah,
after.
but this last week it was like Biden basically said that they would be willing to raise the debt ceiling, that both parties were like agreeing to this. So yeah, the like full news will come out actually next week, like with what the actual decisions are. So this is kind of a case of buy the rumor, sell the news, kind of, maybe, if you've ever heard that little idiom. But
Yeah.
where like the rumors, or like the chatter leading up to the actual event, drive the market more than the actual event itself. Um,
Right.
so
Right.
maybe that is part of what we're seeing this week, with especially with the markets disjointing the way they have been. Um,
And
yeah,
and also another interesting thing that's happening is looking at crypto.
yeah,
So if we look at the SPY here, and I'm going to change this to Bitcoin. Uh, Here's the weekly. So the weekly candle just closed for Bitcoin. It's bearish,
Yeah.
and we kind of I think I think we're gonna see 25. The next support down is around like 25.2.
Yeah.
So we could see it come down to like around 25K the coming week or the coming weeks.
Yeah, it's also closing
Um,
more bearish than the rest of like the equities market, and again, playing into the whole disjointed feel of everything right now, where usually we see the SPY, the QQQ, and crypto move together, and we have been seeing that for most of the bear market, and this time, this last week especially, we're seeing equities run and cryptos kind of flatline and maybe like slumping a little bit more into the bearish kind of indications. So maybe that's also disjointing a little bit here. So keeping my eyes on that.
yeah, if we so if we kind of go back in time
Yeah.
and we look at Bitcoin, so the equities had never really been in a bear market throughout its history. So
That's
even though
it's good to
you
note
know,
actually. Yeah.
yeah, the even though equities or like the S&P 500, like it was in a bull market all throughout, crypto was still within its own cycle.
Yeah.
Like it would,
Cryptos kind of came into the scene at the end of the housing collapse. Like the idea of Bitcoin was initially like published and circulated on the internet in like 2008 or something, but like Bitcoin and
yeah,
crypto trading didn't really take off until, years after that. And I'd say
right,
like the market was deployed in like 2008, 2009. Like, so it's really like the equities market have been in a like either recovering from a bear market at the inception of the crypto kind of like era of I guess, or class of equities, if you want to call it that. But this is going to be the first time that cryptos exist while the rest of the equity market is, in a bear cycle. And so,
right. So
yeah.
so it, and I think here's my thought. My thought is that I think the correlation
Hmm.
might be actually breaking because if equities have bottomed,
Yeah.
you know, uh, because like if equities have actually bottomed, then crypto and Bitcoin is back to its own cycle of it, where we talked about earlier, it's probably gonna come back and retest support, maybe 17K, 20K, and then keep grinding and sort of chopping around till the next Bitcoin halving happens. And
Yeah.
then the next bull market starts only after that. That's how the cycle has always been for Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah. Like where you see the
So,
bull sell off, the bear sell off here, and
yeah.
in the back in time one here, where you're looking at like, 2018 or where is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
19. Yeah, so this was like this was two bull markets before. Like this was in 2017, and then it topped out in December, um,
Yeah, and
and then
all of that downward action is happening while the rest of like the SPY and stuff is building momentum and climbing. So this is definitely like it was in its own bear market here.
exactly. And I think so. We could see something like this. We talked about this, where like we see something like what we saw in 2019. We had like this little, fake out pre-pump here,
Yeah,
like a bull here and then back to bear. And then the actual bull market started only after the halving,
yeah,
you know. And so similarly, we could see it just sort of range around here and then take off.
yeah. Kind of do
It's,
another kind of like basically get another bear print, get another like
yeah,
flip the bands red again
exactly.
one more time, like we just saw happening in 2019.
Yeah, like if I were to guess, like, you know, we could see something like this, then it keeps, I don't know, chopping around, and then finally like start going up to like make new highs, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I could see that. I could see it like disjointing now. If that is the case, if we see a bottom forming in equities, it would be actually really interesting to see kind of cryptocurrencies sticking to their own cycles again, because
Yep.
I feel like a lot of people have noticed the correlation in crypto and equities in the past bull run here and in the subsequent bear market. So if that breaks off again, I think that's going to be a lot of, I guess, credibility to the fact that this is its own asset class. It doesn't trade with, it's not just another extension or a delta of, like, I've also kind
Right.
of, like, I've also viewed it as that in the past too. But like, obviously, all of these opinions and these impressions that we get can update as the information changes. So it's
Yeah,
definitely interesting to
like
watch.
I yeah, like I tell people, and trading is like that. It's kind of like predicting the weather, like
Yeah.
you see what the conditions are, right? You see what the conditions are, and with the data that you have, you can kind of estimate the direction or the way things can go. But
Yeah.
then that can constantly change with, like, just like the weather changes. Maybe
Yeah.
like humidity changes, you get more, like, whatever. The data coming in can be different, which can change things. And you, as a trader and investor, you should be willing to see the change and accept that, and then change your bias accordingly.
Yeah.
Like you can flip from bull to bear and bear to bull, depending on the chart.
Yeah.
And it's okay to do that, because that can happen depending on every candle that you're seeing and
Yeah.
the patterns that you're seeing.
Yeah.
And so
I think
so
it's
while
it's nice to do
yeah
it weekly too, like that we check in every week so we can kind of like give our impression, and then maybe that like helps people understand a little bit better too how to like follow along, because it's really hard to understand kind of like the idea of biasing your sentiment from a single YouTube video or from a single like tutorial that you read or something like that. But like following along and doing it on a weekly basis, I think kind of really helps to like work out that muscle and eventually, hopefully, build kind of like confidence in your own ability to look at these charts and make those kind of predictions, and then have the conviction that comes with actually acting on the predictions you're making. Because everybody can look at charts and draw lines here and there. It's a different game when you're
yeah
throwing your own money at positions, and that's your livelihood. Kind of like, if that's how you make money. And yeah, it's possible to do that. And the best, like you said, the best way to do that is to keep uh, updating your opinion, updating your bias based on the relevant information as it comes, because the chart is being drawn in real time. I don't know which way it goes, up or
right
down, but we
yeah
can take a look.
exactly. It all depends on the candle close.
Yeah.
And last week we gave we talked briefly about how to trade. Like, it's actually very simple. All you're doing is marking out your levels and seeing where the candle is in between, and then trading it level to level. And
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at. So we have a bull print right now on the weekly. Of course, the starch is a little like overbought, so it might cool off a little bit, but it might do an SR flip. And once it bounces, then you just trade the next level up.
Yeah.
And so you're trading range to range, and that's all you're doing.
Yeah. What I would ideally really like to see here on your chart here for the SPY is, if on the weekly we start to cool off on the SRSI there on the bottom gets to the oversold level before the price crosses over that resistance line. So if we can get closer to oversold while staying above 408, then I would
Yeah,
I would feel more confident in opening positions in equities, because that's like, okay,
right.
looks
And
like we're above the resistance. We're like starting to feel overbought, and like that's kind of all I need to see. That plus the fact that we have a bull print, we're on the green side of the strength band, so I should be biasing bullish. So instead of like looking
right,
looking for opportunities to create short positions, I'm looking for opportunities to create long positions. So like
right,
that's what the trading buddy's telling me, which bias I'm taking, and
right,
then my assessment of charting resistance levels and looking at the SRSI is telling me when is the right time to take those positions in that direction.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And so the next few, like, you can see, if we go back in time, you can see that you can, this is a SPY the weekly again.
yeah.
You can say stay sort of like
That's true.
overbought. You can dip, and then you can see the SRSI doing a flip again. And this is like over, this that's close to a year. where it's like been grinding up. You know what I mean? And before we actually see a pullback. So we could also get something like that here. You know what I mean? Where we see it bounce around a few times while price
Yeah.
runs up.
Yeah, the QQQ is
Possibly
already doing that a little bit.
right. And yeah, here if we look at the QQQ, it's exactly what you said. So
Yeah.
here we saw it sort of like come down and flip and then cross over again while prices continue going up.
Yeah.
So and also I know there are talks of like recession, like that's still not off the table. We could still get that. So
Yeah.
we could there could also be a scenario where you see price run up all the way to recession, and then we see a once everybody sees that we are actually in a recession, then price could tank and
Yeah.
then sort of like find a bottom again, and then
Yeah. So get like
we
like
sort
a
of
fake out pump during the recession, and then like once everybody kind of realizes that it's a recession, because I feel like the market does react kind
yeah
of slowly to these things. It has been
yep
feeling like a recession for like a while to me, but
yep
all the time you get the Fed and everyone's like, maybe there's a recession coming, and I'm like, wait, coming? Like,
exactly.
yeah,
I mean, you know, like we've been in a downtrend ever since like the
yeah,
whole past year. So
yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
it'll be
it's
interesting to
I'd
see.
say the takeaway for this week though is like keeping an eye on the DXY as well as the equity markets. Everything seems to be flipping much more bullish. So looking at taking some long positions with only like short selling in this coming week for me, and like you said for yourself as well, is kind of limited to the pullback that we're like trying to maybe make short sell profits on a pullback. If you're a day trader, maybe that is also a strategy you'd be interested in. But looking at the DXY and the rest of the equity charts, it does look like we're flipping a little bit bullish. So want to see how this next coming week is going to close. I am probably going to open a few long positions this week. Take a look at which stocks look good, and we'll be talking about that kind of stuff in Discord all week, like
Yeah.
we usually do. And then for crypto, it does start to feel like maybe we're discoupling from the equity market here. Maybe we are going to see crypto stay bearish while the rest of these markets are flipping bullish. It. I also feel like I don't have enough like to confirm that fully yet based on the chart, but it does look like the week closed and it did close kind of bearish, but we do have a green strength band at the moment. We still have our bull print, so I'm still looking to be biased bullish. So I'm giving these bearish indications a little less weight when it comes to my own decision making. Because I like to let the trading buddy kind of like take that off my plate. but
That's right.
but yeah, so let's take a look next week. We'll pop back in here. We'll take a look at how the week's closed, and if we did continue pushing up across the board, or if we did, do what kind of is usually the expectation, where the DXY runs and the equities kind of fall off. So are the equities going to keep running this week, or are we going to stick with kind of what we've always seen? It's definitely a strange time in the market. I think these are strange conditions, like we talked about last week too, like the bond markets having their yield curve inverted for a while. That's also something that doesn't happen often, so
Yeah, that usually signals a recession.
that's
It
it usually
always
happens right before a recession every time. So we did have that happen recently. So that coupled with people are like, maybe there's a recession coming. It's like, yeah, I mean, there is a lot of indications out there that strongly support that there may still be a recession on the horizon. So I'm definitely not yet like aping into everything, going kind of balls to the wall all in, but I am excited to be trading long again. I've been trading short for a while, and
Yeah,
short
with
trading is
equities at
hard.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's also much like just as a trader who does this kind of stuff all the time, like trading long is a lot easier, it's a lot easier to buy shares of something and just sit on that versus like maintaining a margin position and, short selling something where you have to maintain the interest that you use to borrow those assets and all that kind of stuff is a lot more difficult than just trading long. So I am excited
right.
that the indications on these charts is like, hey, it might be long trading season again here soon. So just looking
Right.
forward to like taking long positions because it's easier and more fun,
Right.
less stressful. Yeah. But
And it'll be interesting to see if this is actually a bottom in equities. Then if the trading buddy has actually called pretty much the bottom. and the
Yeah.
top.
Yeah.
Well, so far it has all
So
these
far it's
years.
done it quite well. So I'm still like you said, it's like I want to just like it's obviously going to be most lucrative if you just ape in at the bottom and ape out at the top, but that's just not a realistic strategy to follow long term. Like it's something that can happen, of course, but it's not something that you can reliably do. So taking these indications and then applying them to a strategy that's replicatable and sustainable over the long term is also the goal here. It's not like I'm not trying to catch the bottom or dump everything on the top, but
Right.
understanding when to change how we trade and how we approach these positions is
Or
the underlying
catching,
goal.
yeah, or I would say like to catch the change in trend. And I
Yeah.
think that's what also Trading Buddy is showing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
As soon
Very
as the
clearly
trend
here.
changes, then take a new position or close your position.
Yeah.
As they say in trading, they say this: the trend is your friend.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I basically trade
Absolutely.
the trend.
Yeah.
And
And that's realistically like a lot of trading, just as a little side note before we wrap things up, because I feel like we're going over what we targeted for time wise, but I'm having too much fun just shooting the shit about trading. But yeah, what I wanted to say is a lot of these trends that we're looking at are also the trends. Like everyone's looking at the same chart. Everyone out there who's trading, be it a human or a bot or a hedge fund network of bot farms or whoever it is, they're all looking at this same chart. And sure, the hedge fund has like a Bloomberg portal and they see it like 7 seconds faster than what I see, but ultimately I'm not looking at the 7-second chart or that doesn't matter to me. For the positions that I'm taking, I'm looking at the weekly chart. Maybe I'll zoom into the daily chart, sometimes the 4-hour, but that's already like too much. I'm a human, but what I wanted to say is that, like, when we see these trends, it's not just us seeing these trends, it's these trends existing across the entire market. And so a lot of the times there has been this kind of like sense of self-fulfillment to some of these trends where like the market's going to keep climbing because the trend is upward, and most of the trading is supported by bot networks, and bot networks follow a trend, and it's an algorithm, not a rational thing. And the reality,
so they'll just like swarm into the same bias.
Yeah, basically
Because
the idea is like
they're seeing the same thing.
Yeah, so that's my kind of like takeaway here is that like the reason why I like to stick to the chart and give that the like final say to my trading positions is because the chart is what everybody's looking at. We're not all looking at the same piece of news, that says that the debt ceiling got raised, or that whatever the news is this week. Like not everyone is aware of everyone's looking at the price. Everyone's looking at this information, so we can make our decisions based on the information that everyone is presumably using to bias their positions. So it's not like, that's why I'd say news is a little bit secondary. And the other side of the news thing is that there's so much going on in the world. You can always find stories that support or, negate a current trend. So no matter what's happening, like if this market pumped and like Elon Musk made a tweet about ice cream yesterday, I could be like, look at this, like, oh, Elon Musk tweeted, this went up. So it's like, the news is a little bit less of a bias point for me. And I like to see this chart, starting to signal all these bullish indicators, because it makes me start to get more and more confident that, it's time to maybe trade long.
Yep.
But yeah, let's take a look at this stuff again next week. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week and letting us ramble a little bit here on the end. But yeah, thanks for joining us, and follow us on the social medias. We're on YouTube, we got a TikTok, there's Instagram and Twitter, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks. See you.